I think that I knew I was gay from a very young age, and I definitely compartmentalized it. I put it to the side because I thought something's wrong with me.
Right.
All I ever wanted to be was a country artist. Then I meet the love of my life, who so happens to be a woman. Then I'm told that I'm not allowed to be a country artist and be in love with this person, but I'm absolutely in love with this person and I'm absolutely a country artist, so what the hell am I supposed to do?
I knew that I didn't have an interest in girls. I had them in boys, and I knew in my brain growing up Southern Baptist in Mississippi that wasn't accurate, so I would kind of tuck that away.
I never had anything to base love off of. I never saw two boys in love when I was a kid. I never saw two men in love when I was a kid. Growing up, I remember thinking that like I was, not only was I different, but like I was gonna be like a quote unquote weird person. Like I was like, oh, I meant to just grow up by myself. Like I really, when I started this attraction to boys, I really thought that love wasn't a thing for me.
When I first started off musical theater, my grandpa worked as a janitor for like a strip mall, and he knew that I loved singing, so he took me to this audition. I got the part, and I remember like my dad coming to the first show, and I had a full beat on. Mm-hmm. Like I did it myself. Mm-hmm. Like my mom bought the makeup, but I like was back there, and like I just felt like Judy Garland, and there's the beat in my face. I had the red lipstick too.
Yeah.
And I performed, and then we got off stage. My dad had come to see it, and I'll never forget. He like wiped my face, and he was like, "No son of mine's gonna wear makeup." And I was like, "Oh," like I felt like awful.
Do you remember ever being told by someone a direct message about homosexuality?
Yeah.
That caused you to come from a place of fear?
Yeah. As a kid growing up, I would go to baseball practice on a daily basis, and you're bombarded with homophobic language. The worst thing to be in baseball. It's always used as an insult.
That's the number one go-to.
Yeah, so that's the number one go-to. And so I was really taught in that environment that who I am inside, something I can't change, is like literally the worst thing to be according to that culture. I remember I had a baseball coach. He said, "You're playing like a bunch of queers. You know, you're a bunch of faggots on this field. No faggots belong on this baseball field." And that was, you know, when you're young and impressionable, and like your coaches are like your role models, you know, it's crushing.
I was like, oh shoot, I guess I'm kind of not straight, but like I don't know what that means. And I identify as bisexual now, so now I have all of the terminology and all the knowledge.
Sure.
But bisexuality at that time to me was presented as like a transitional thing. Like you're straight, then you kind of go down like gay street and you're like bi for a little bit until you get to like gay town, and then you're gay, and then there's no,
right.
Like that's just is what it is. And like I said, even saying it out loud, it sounds crazy, but as a young person, I'm really like, oh my God, this is happening to me. There's both this temptation to understand yourself and discover this part of yourself, because that's what you're told college is all about, like finding out who you are and who you want to be. And then there's of course the very real fear that in that discovery you will find different limitations, you will find different adversaries, you will find different really harms to you and your dreams and in your well-being. So part of me in college was like, well, if I am bi or if I am gay, let me just like stop. Let me just like go back.
Teresa is amazing. I met her in Texas and we hit it off right away. There was a nice chemistry and camaraderie and just a friendship that led to a relationship. I was playing this sort of happy-go-lucky guy in all aspects of my life, from television, you know, smiling on TV to radio and doing these chirpy, peppy interviews all the time. Even in family life, where I'd go to church and smile and I'd wear the right clothes and we'd be the perfect family, all that seemed like fakery. Like that's not real. What is real is what I'm telling you now, Teresa. And that's what I had to get to that point where I could actually have that first conversation where I just got real. You know, it's not a conversation you ever want to have, but for me, it was the first step in finding peace with myself.
Being in the closet doesn't make me a better person. Being in the closet makes me half of a person. I had been internalizing not being able to be myself for the last, I guess it was 6 years. And I ended up making myself sick. I had ulcers that if it weren't for first world medicine and being able to have iron infusions and blood transfusions, I would not be alive today.
Hiding who I was somewhat traumatic, but then we actually went to a Christian counselor in Memphis. And I remember my mom would go in and she would say, hey, my son has a problem. He thinks he's gay, you know, da 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 da. And the Christian counselor actually looked at my mom and said, your son doesn't have the problem, you do. He's who he's supposed to be. And really from that moment forward, my mom really kind of took a stance for me, and it changed how she thought. And she really, from that moment forward, tried to understand it.
There have been a few players who have come out after they have retired, but at the time when I came out,
Active player.
I was the only active player to come out at the time.
I was like, I want to come out. It's like, I just want it out there. So anytime I am in a situation, whether it's a team gonna sign me or I'm just out living my life and holding my boyfriend's hand, there is no fear that comes with these things that should be positive things.
Right. It was really fun that first year, June of 2017, to have not only my guy, but Teresa bring her guy and our kids all be together and walk in the Pride Parade. If you can imagine that. Wow. In our colors and everything else, walking as a family, it was exhilarating. And I'm probably just a better Christian, or Christ-like person than I've ever been. And that's come from the truth and honesty and integrity and trying to live that every day, those values.
Since I came out, I've put out my favorite music I've ever put out. And I feel like I'm now just starting to actually be able to write from that place because I'm healed now. I think if there was one word to describe my life, it would be happy. And to look back at myself 7 years ago and to just know that I didn't even know what that word meant. I'm just so happy to be where I am now. I'm just so happy to not be in that sad place anymore. And I'm just happy to be able to live my life as me.
Because I am an honest and open person, like I said, and I've been that way my whole life. I was that way in therapy, and I was there, and I took it serious, and I wanted to be better. So all the therapy that I was in, I learned a lot. So I think it comes with being honest with yourself first and make the changes that you need to make. And then you can help other people to make the changes they need to make to be a part of your life.
Now, I love the idea that my masculinity and femininity can exist in one vessel. I love that. Like, I love how I can turn it on, I can turn it off. This is all me, honey. You know what I mean? Like, it's a superpower that I can do that.
Out of all the things that I'm most proud of, it's the fact that I was able to come out and keep my job. There's somewhere out there, there's a kid who could be listening today or maybe has heard one of the other interviews.
Yeah.
That's what I needed to hear as a kid. It's possible to do what you love and be who you are.
I want people to know that you can play the game you love and be who you are. And not only you can, but you deserve to, and that's your right.
There is still a lot of love out there, even though it may not be seen on your screen right now because we tend to look at the negative. There's something about that honesty, that truth of showing your vulnerability and being honest with people that I think endears them to you.
Yeah.
As long as you stay true to yourself and stay on the path that your gut tells you to go on, it will get better.
Everybody deserves love. You got to figure out who you are and do the work to figure that out.
Yeah.
And you got to look yourself in the mirror, and it ain't easy, and you could avoid for as long as you want, but you got to look yourself in the mirror and you got to find who you are and find your purpose, and that'll create meaning. And for me, I'm lucky. I feel like I've found that, and I'm starting to figure out what that means.
I spent a lot of my life trying to find the perfect time to come out. And I realized that there is no perfect time to come out. There's only time that I waste living a lie, time that I enjoy and appreciate living my truth. And I want other people to get to that decision for themselves as soon as possible, because life is not promised to us. And it is a beautiful thing when you live it as your full self.
Never give up, because it will get better.
Not only does life get better, but you feel better.
It gets better.